I'll get a start with the things that I know how to play the least. So,
Nice.
And
I love it in the spirit of experimentation.
I just call it Texas 71. It's about Route 71. So.
All right.
About every bargain, everything I had and what I walked out on, all the Lone Star horizon.
Here we go. This is another new one, obviously titled Lonesome Valley. That'll change probably.
I watched you walk out from the world before, and nothing asked you to be much more than just a handful of the dust. Oh, Lonesome Valley, Lonesome Valley. Oh, Lonesome Valley, Lonesome Valley. Out here the ghost of the feather crown of blue and the sickle moon watches over all the lost horizon. Oh, Lonesome Valley, Lonesome Valley. Oh, Lonesome Valley, Lonesome Valley. Nothing's worried about heading back. We'll all be punished by a civil death. We did enough, but not our best. yourself back out again. Oh, the Lonesome Valley, the Lonesome Valley. And let the wolf judge me where I stand. Harmony onward, friend, till I see that old door again. High over the Lonesome Valley, high over the Lonesome Valley.
Here we go.
Trouble in mind, I'm blue, but I won't be blue always. You know the sun is gonna shine in my back door someday. I'm gonna lay my head on some lonesome railroad line. Gonna look that big 800, satisfy this mind of mine. Trouble in mind, I'm blue. My poor heart is sinking This time it took half my life to have half the right to say. Nothing ever makes it home. It takes the Blue Star Highway. Nothing ever makes it home. It takes the Blue Star Highway. If today you're left with nothing, be thankful you're not left with less. Some of us only lose the dark to get lost in darkness. Red crescent moon, you can wave a lantern down. I'm back where you join hands with the blue highway now. If I could have my heart come back and be forgiven for them old days, I'd be headed where I always been, down the wrong road both ways. I'd be headed where I always been, down the wrong road both ways.
This song is called Don't Fade on Me.
Darling, you faded on me. Darling, you faded on me. Don't fade on me. You come out of the blues all them times by yourself. Nothing lives for nothing, and that goes for pain and goes for everything else. But you faded on me, you faded on me. Don't fade on me. You come out okay through the worst of it all. One star still standing, you'd make the final wish for the world when it falls. Fading faster on you, faster on you. Don't fade on me. Even that tired old moon has finally come back to town. She's been asking for you. I thought that no one lives for nothing now. Even Christ stayed until he had run out of doubt. You faded on me, you faded on me. Faded on me, you faded on me. made me thankful for the blues. Half my life been on a highway, half my life I didn't choose. Now I've seen the North Star shining in the face yours, and I knew it was a hard time that it come through. Made him thankful for the blues. It broke my heart to know you waited. I had so many things to do. She was forever out of stuff. You could have had a little better luck. You just called and just hung it up. One of us has had enough. Truest father out of stuff. You could have had a little better luck. You just called and just hung it up. Maybe both of us have had enough. There you are.
This one's going to be, this is called the Nashville Moon. My cat may sing along on this one, actually. That would be... Okay, here we go.
How many ghosts will I lead on the road that depends? How hard you're running, that depends. Which ones you know, which ones know that you'll be coming? How far away is that Nashville moon? That depends. Where did she leave you? How many miles till my mistakes catch up? That depends. Which ones you're counting? And that depends. What you're forgetting. Doesn't matter whose side I'm on, or does that depend? Baby, on the fight. Does it matter that every star fell from the sky, or does that depend? Baby, on the night. How far away is that Nashville moon? That depends. which road you're taking. I've been on this road, but it is darkness into wind. I just headed for the dark again. How far am I from living my whole life only in the dark, only in the dark? I'd say, friend, you know that depends on how close you are. Now who was I? Now who am I? Lord, what have I done? This old blow down the piano sounds like maybe someone's time has come. What comes after the blues? What comes after the blues? I nailed my guilt to the back of my eyes, so I see it now before the sun. Now who was I? Now who am I? Lord, what have I done? Come after the blues. What comes after the blues? What comes after the blues? Now Noah must have had a lot of room on the ark for them broken hearts. Stay with me now, old crimson pile, paint like this will leave out of the dark. Come after the blues, come after the blues, come after the blues. full moon went walking with blue eyes. They're all free with blue eyes without got my window open in the Southern Cross Hotel. Been the longest night I can tell. By the way, I'm not surprised to see the desert cover now count every rhododendron in this cool mountain life. I made more mistakes than that just tonight. So are you folks in heaven not to be there? Some of us down here ain't doing very well. Some of us with our windows open in the Southern Cross Hotel. Sing that song again. The one you were singing at the very fall of man. It ain't hallelujah, but it might as well have been. Sing it, sister, one more time. Sing it, sister, one more time. Sing it, brother, one more time. Once for everybody who got left behind with the world. Oh, with the will, with the will. Oh, with the will, with the will.
Yeah, so this is Jim from the Record Hospital, WHRB 95.3 FM in Cambridge. I'm here with Jason Molina from Songs Ohio and the Magnolia Electric Company and various other projects. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm really glad to be back here.
All right, so on this tour, are you touring as Songs Ohio or are you Magnolia Electric Company?
It's still Magnolia Electric Co.
Oh, okay. When exactly did that change happen? Is it with the group of people?
At the end of after Didn't It Rain, in my mind that was pretty much the last Songs record. Just because I think that it sort of it covered a lot of the territory that I think that I had been trying to cover and map out for myself for a really long time, longer than 10 years, but it had been so long since we had revisited some of that old stuff, and we had so much new stuff that just one day I just wanted I wanted to change the title, which really is arbitrary to me, but something that sounds like a good collective kind of name.
Okay. So what exactly was the origin of the name Songs Ohio?
Well,
And Magnolia Electric.
Magnolia I just made up out of the clear blue sky. The Songs Ohio name came from sort of a play on words between an Ohio, like the way that people from Ohio pronounce the state. They say Ohio, and this Hawaiian flower. It's a tree. I guess it's a flowering tree. I've actually never been to Hawaii, so how the hell do I know? It's called ohia. There.
Is that how it's?
Well, I would say, but like I
Songs
said,
ohia?
I hadn't actually been to Hawaii, but since I had been writing a lot of songs on the ukulele, I thought it was just mostly just a notation device for me, but it ended up sticking. People suggested that I should keep it, so I did.
Okay. So let's back up a little bit. So how long have you been making music, and what's like in general the background of like from when you started playing music until like the songs Ohia and Magnolia?
Well, I didn't. Well, you could say Ohio because it's so much easier. I never took music lessons, or I didn't come from a musical background, but I listened to a lot of records. My parents had a really kick-ass record collection. It had a lot of psychedelic music in it. It had a lot of 50s and 60s bands. Had some pop stuff. It had a lot of folk stuff. And I have some of my earliest memories are actually operating a turntable and listening to records, and that's the way that I learned about songs and music. It wasn't really from knowing someone who played, music. So that I'd say I was certainly writing songs by at least the time I was like 10 or so. I had taught myself, really in a really primitive kind of way how to play this beatable guitar that my parents got at a garage sale, and I couldn't tune it. You had to in order to tune it, because no one knew how to change the strings, you had to tune it with a wrench. So I had to just take a wrench, a pair of pliers or something, and be able to tune it.
This is Zach just arrived from the Record Hospital.
I could tell the way you were standing.
Yeah.
You
Awkwardly.
got
to the
yeah.
side.
We can edit
Like
Zach out.
You look like a beacon. A beacon has radio beacon.
Okay. So what would you say some of like the musical influences, the folk records you listen to?
Oh.
Any like particular bands?
Yeah, the ones that I always listened to over and over again were like Roxy Music, Brian Eno, Neil Young. We had a couple Dylan records. I listened to there was some heavy stuff in there, like Uriah Heep and Sabbath and Iron Butterfly. I mean, I listened to that stuff because I enjoyed it. It wasn't like my parents didn't push it on me. I listened to a lot of Pink Floyd. These are just things that appealed to me when I was pretty young, and a lot of it had to do with just how cool the record cover was. I would just go through and find the best one, and something that was interesting to me, and then somehow a lot of that became my favorite records. That first Sabbath record with that crazy witch or whatever on the cover, that was one of my favorite records of all time since I was a kid.
So how did you originally get hooked up with Palace for like the first single?
What happened was I drove a bunch of my friends who I went to school with in Oberlin out to see a show in Cleveland, and I hadn't actually heard Will's music before, but they lived with me. They knew the kinds of songs that I wrote, and they knew the kinds of tapes that I made and passed around, and they suggested that maybe that if we recorded something, they could give it to someone that might really appreciate it. That was pretty much the idea. Wasn't to put out records or anything. It was just that my friends all said, there's somebody that you ought to listen to, or someone who should hear your music. So we went to that show. they gave the tape to Will, and I put my address in there, and he wrote to me and said, "You want to put out a record?" And I said, "Yeah."
That sounds awesome. So did you...
Didn't go that fast though, because I didn't have any concept of what independent music was. So when I was like, put out a record, I mean, only bands I listen to are like Iron Maiden and Metallica, and I've never heard of Drag City, never heard of any of these bands before. So I had to have a crash course in. Although I had been listening to independent music for years, I collected all the SST bands. I had some touch and go records. We had tapes of a lot of Midwestern bands and especially SST bands. I really was into because they put out some great comps. I remember having like these 12-inch comps, label comps that. I bought them in the record stores because they were the most interesting looking thing, It wasn't all the pop stuff, and then they'd always have this small section with about 5 records where somebody was brave enough to order for the store these independent or these, smaller label records, and of course I grabbed a hold of those, and that ended up being the kind of stuff that I really liked listening to. So what happened was after I had my little crash course, eventually. Will did all the work to get the record to actually come out, and he did everything for that.
Okay. So, I guess, obviously at the beginning there were a lot of comparisons between like Will's music and your music, but like, one of the questions I thought to ask is if you found like those comparisons like stifling at all, or
it never made me not want to write music the same way that I always had. It was certainly frustrating to realize that there was a lot of great opportunities that we could have had if we weren't. When I say we, I just mean in general, me and a lot of the people who I played with. If we weren't, always called like the sort of the little Palace brother, that followed me forever, and it will follow me forever. I have no problem with it. It's just that, people, the great radio stations, the great independent or local radio stations in all the cities that we would go to, would really not be interested in giving us the time of day, to play the records or anything, just because of that. So, it's a heavy shadow, but it's not a bad shadow.
So then you actually worked with Will and some other people for the Amalgamated Sons of Rest.
Sure, and
so
Al Roberts.
Okay, so that was for like one record. Was that planned to be like an ongoing thing, or just for that one project?
It's a project, and I hope that we get to do another one. It's just a matter of being able to sync up our time, our touring, and our willingness to come together again and do another couple days. We had one pretty much on the books, ready to go, and there was just some kind of scheduling conflict, which made it so that at the last minute we weren't going to be able to do it. So, I have songs that I sort of have reserved. I play them once in a while, and I try to keep them off of records. Hopefully that I can. See if we can do arrangements with them again. I hope that works.
Okay. So you started out performing solo, and then like throughout the years performing with different people, and now obviously you're playing with a band. So how's that progression like?
Well, the real way to think of it is I started out writing songs alone in my house for no reason other than just writing. This is like when I'm really, really young. And then eventually in like junior high school, I got in bands, made a band, and we played around a lot and wrote a lot of music, recorded and everything. And then as that band got older and we started to move to different cities, and I was still the youngest one. I mean, I was still in high school when the guys in my band were, leaving college. So I was a lot younger than them. So I ended up just finding myself with a lot of songs I had written and not really the same band that I had been playing with for years and years and years. We were called the Spine Riders. And we basically ended up, each of the individual members of the Spine Riders went on doing their own music, and I ended up doing mine, and I never had any desire to put together a solid, full-time band, although many people have played many years with me off and on, but it's a very open policy. If you're available and you want to do it, then you're probably on the stage, but if not, then you're not.
So what's it like? I guess. Okay. So what was the original decision to tour like with the name Songs Ohio when it was like sort of just you?
I just remember when we put out that first Palace 7-inch, I didn't want there to really be a name. I just wanted it to just be some artwork and then 2 songs. And basically everyone said, that's madness. You can't put out a single with just artwork and no information on it at all. And so it was just a consensus with the people helping out and working on that to stick something on there, and it ended up being the name off of the demos, the demos, I guess, from some of the tapes I had been passing around.
So like getting to like the content of the music, like some singer-songwriters like John Danielle claim that like they don't ever write songs about themselves, but your music seems to be like very personal. There's a lot of like talking about I and like referring to you.
I'm number one.
So is
all
it
about me?
Is the music? Do you write your music primarily about like yourself and your experiences, or is it about?
Well, yeah. I don't write songs about characters. I don't have a brain for that, and I do love it. And some of my favorite songwriters, I'm sure that it's difficult for them to extract themselves from the characters sometimes that are in the songs, but I've never naturally done that, and in fact, I don't think I've ever sat down and tried it because I just know what a miserable failure it would be, which is why I wasn't a writer, and that's why I studied like painting and drawing and stuff, because once I understood that I couldn't tell a story or construct a complete sentence, or when people were telling me that, it wasn't worth my time to be told I was doing it wrong. I always knew I could play songs. No one can tell you how to write a song.
So, and then with the albums themselves, they're simultaneously like very like cohesive among themselves and very different like among the albums. So like what's the album that comes to mind to me is like The Lioness, which like all the songs like sort of share like an underlying like naturalistic motif. So what like with that album, like as an example, like what's the process of like writing songs for an album?
It's mostly time specific. If I have say over the course of a few months have written a few songs, I will notice certain lyrical themes that keep coming back up. Maybe I hadn't fully explored it in one song, and I'll see that next week I'm writing another song which I thought was going to be totally different, and yet it kind of touches back on something from before some of the other songs I already have. And once I get 8 or 10 songs that seem to be really related and they've been written in a fairly close time frame, I set them aside, and then I think to myself, could that make a record? And there's been times when I didn't think that it was worth it, so they just either ended up never being recorded or they just sat in a pile of demos. But that's the way that I approach doing the records. I don't like to have if I have a record where there's one song that just sort of jumps out as not really fitting, then I feel like that's the breaking off point of that group of songs, which is why I write a lot of music, so that I don't want to have to leave 4 good songs in the dust just because I got this other song that doesn't seem to fit with them. I don't want to pursue the new song territory until I feel like I'm satisfied with what I could get out of the things I had been working so hard on before.
So then if there's like one that one song, then do you like work on the 4 other songs?
Sure,
like towards
right.
the album? So the songs that you've been writing have become like over the years, like from like Axis and Ace, they're more sort of like sing along type songs, and now they're like not really sing along, but more like rocky, and now they're like longer and less structured. I'm thinking like of Ghost Tropics. So
Sure.
what like motivated that, or
Not a specific thing except for that I'm a huge fan of like really minimal kinds of music. I don't have a very big record collection. I have this is fun. I have the 50 record rule. I have a crate that holds exactly 50 records, and if I want a new record, I have to get rid of one of the others. So I don't have a huge record collection, but every time I hear something on a radio or someone's playing a mixtape for me, I always like gravitate to these, old songs. I was a huge Susie fan and all that 4AD stuff, and I listened to all that stuff simultaneously with like super heavy metal, and like I listened to like death metal, and I listened to everything at the same time, and I didn't stop liking one scene of music because I never really felt like I was part of one of those scenes.
it's like being a DJ.
So like, your scene is just what you're surrounded with, and that's, I guess now that I say it, that's pretty much the way that I write music too. It's what I just write about what I'm surrounded with.
And so you've produced like a large volume of like music over the years, and with like some like bands or singers, it seems like they feel like a pressure to like change and do things differently, and a lot of times it ends up like making them go downhill. But I feel like with your work, you've just consistently put out like huge amounts of music that like changes but still manages to stay like really like emotive and relevant. So like,
Right.
how do you do
I
that?
see what you're saying. But for a minute, it sounded like you invented the word amusic. Amusing music. The reason that the only thing I could say about that is that it's because of the record label that I work with, Secretly Canadian. They're 100% independent label. They wrote to me the minute that Palace 7-inch came out and said, "When's your next record coming out?" And I wrote to Drag City and said, "When is my next record coming out?" And they didn't have an answer. They were like, "I don't know, send us some tapes." And I said, "Well, here's these people who want to start a record label. Why don't I just send it to them?" And so there's never any strings attached with ever working with Drag City, with working with Palace Records, with working with Will. It's just here was these people interested in starting a record label, and obviously, like I said, I didn't know what the hell was going on anyway. And I was doing a show in New York with Edith Frost, and I think Ollie Roberts was playing. So these guys who wanted to start this label, the Secretly Canadian guys, drove all the way from Indiana out to see this show in New York City in a record store, which is now closed. But and I was so just amazed that anybody would put that kind of effort or energy into their vision, that I just gave them 2 songs, and then they put out a 7-inch. And I like so much the way that they work, which is I hand them a record, and that's the record. They don't come in and say, "Could you change anything?" and we suggest that you try this. And we've certainly learned a lot of lessons, they have as a label, and working with someone like me. But our next thing is we're putting out a double live LP, because this is what fans have basically created the next record. Instead of the labels suggesting, "Why don't you put out a live record?" There's so many people who trade these bootlegged shows, and they chronicle everything, and they grade the quality of the performance and the quality of the recording, and they do so much hard work. But we ended up having given to us a great live recording, which we're pretty sure no one has bootlegged. So we thought that was a great. So it's not really a gift because no one's getting it for free, but it's a thing that I think that people will be interested in because we've already done one live record, and people went crazy for it, and we thought that no one in the world would buy it. We thought we'd have to just leave them in the dustbin, but I'm really satisfied with working with a label that's willing to take that kind of a risk because it could really tank. It could tank, and we are confident. I'm confident in signing off on it and saying it's a really special show. It's almost entirely unrecorded material. Songs not on any studio records, and the interesting and key part of the new live record is that the first song just happened to be the first song that I wrote and was working out with the band for the studio record. So you have this live record that comes out in January with this one song, and then in April you have a studio record, which is the same song but done months and months and months later. But at the time we had that new song, we didn't even know we were working on a record. So I think that's great, and I wish that, when I was buying so many records that I'd seen more stuff like that from bands, officially sanctioned things, instead of having to wait for them to pop up in the bootleg world where people charge $60 for something. That's just, a fan will pay anything for something that they dearly, dearly want, and it could be just garbage. So it's nice to have something that we believe is not garbage and that the label has some say in a way that it's going to look, in the way it's distributed and packaged. And so I'm really happy, and I'd say that's working with them has been the key ingredient to me not having to say I want to change in a radical way and gear myself towards a certain kind of scene or.
So you brought up like bootlegging and rare recordings, so that brings me to the next question. One of our DJs told me that he asked you at one point during some show whether or not you would reissue Protection Spells in the Ghost, and you told him that you didn't plan to do it because they were offered as like something special to the fans who came out on tour.
That's true. And we have this. We're trying to think of a new bumper sticker or a T-shirt that's kind of right along that line. It's like, if I talked to you before, I meant what I said, and I did mean that. But what's happening now is people are paying $165 for a record that we basically sold on tour for $5, and I think that's really it's sad because there is a demand for it, and we don't make records to make money, and hell yes, we got to eat and pay our rent, but those are our priorities first and foremost. And then if we could have everybody who's playing in the band, be able to, not have a day job, that would be fantastic. And so it's like it's a balancing act, It is true, and I am sticking by my principles there, that it was something we offered as a special thing, but at the end of those tours, we still had boxes and boxes of them, so it wasn't like everyone who came out wanted, the $5 CD. In fact, people were stealing them, because we would just put out, we would sit there and sell the records, but then for the tour-only CDs, we'd just put out a little honor box, and then every night it would be like three were gone, and there was no honor in the box. Not that money is honor, but so you see where I'm at, and I'm not that torn about it really. I don't want somebody spending $160 on the
so you
internet
are like re-releasing them? Is that
no? There's no plan to. It's
okay.
just that
Yeah.
I'm open to suggestions for something like that. Certain things I'm pretty shut down on. But as far as something like that goes, yes, because people have done, like I said, these bootleggers don't make money off of it. The bootleggers don't, but they've done such hard work, and there's probably 100 songs out there that only exist on some live recording, and then there's at least 100 more that never got recorded. And so if I ever wanted a copy of that, or if anybody ever wanted a copy of some of these songs that were only played live once or twice, I have to rely on the bootleggers, and so and those are true fans. I mean, it stresses me out though, because I don't really have to deal with it, except for when people come up to me and say, I had to pay all this money for this record, why don't you just reissue it? And then and the label's open to that, but I don't think people have really a concept of the scale of the size of labels. You can't, it's not as simple as me picking up the phone and saying, okay, Secretly Canadian, I want you to reissue these random CDs that you haven't dealt with in years and years and years. Are you good with that? Okay, thanks. It doesn't work that simply.
Okay, and so you mentioned, this is another question we had. You mentioned that you have songs that, like, a large number of songs that will only, like, get played once or twice live, never get recorded, and then sort of, like, disappear.
Sure.
And that's sort of like, I mean, that's not like, it seems like a weird way to look at music. Not like weird, but like not a lot of people like do music like that. So what like leads you to write music and play music that sort of way?
Well, I mean, I loved, going out, and I still do, watching, bands improvise. It doesn't matter what kind of music they're playing. If they're improvising, I can, on certain nights, I have just an idea, and I'll just start a riff on the guitar, and the band, instinctively follows along, because we spend a lot of time together just jamming, and I'll turn that into a song, and for me that's a song. That's the way you write a song. But it's sometimes, if that's the environment that it came from, sometimes I think the beauty of it is just to let it go out there. And I don't, when we're doing stuff like this, we don't think that people might be taping it. But now it's obvious that after years and years and years, people have hundreds and hundreds of records of recordings of us doing stuff like that. But I think it's great. I'm sure I wrote my best song at my kitchen table, and I never even thought about it. I never recorded it. It's just playing music.
Did you have any more questions?
Well, that last one was my question.
That was
That's what I contributed. I don't know if I'm going to throw in a question. You were talking about buying records on their label art, and your records have great cover art, and I was wondering, is that consistent with sort of your experience growing up and buying that?
I guess it probably has something to do with having been a big fan of records. I like to have a hand in the making of the artwork. I don't necessarily feel like I have to sit down and design it, but I can give ideas to people. And like in the case of the last one, Will Schaff, did the Kick-Ass Magnolia cover, and then a friend of a friend offered up the design for Pyramid. I made some suggestions, and ultimately it seems like I still get to say yes or no, or I know that I do, but it's just because I just think of me, opening up a record for the first time, not even knowing what the band is, and so it's not that important for me to show like a specific image or get across a certain image or a stylized version of a band, because in Ohio, when I was buying 7 inches and these old, a good example is I was saying about how there's those record stores I would go in would have a small bin with just a few records that were these weird covers and stuff. They would also be the ones with no jacket, or the weird handmade cover, or just a 7-inch stuck in a white paper sleeve with nothing else on it. I mean, those were the things that were so interesting to me, and that's why I'd rather buy a record in a thrift store than in a music bin. That's the end of my my interview, I think. Did you get everything you need?
Yeah. Well, the one other question we had was, in a perfect world, who would you have win the World Series?
Wow.
In a perfect world, that would be the Toledo Mud Hens.
All right, so this is Jim and Zach interviewing Jason Molina for the Songs Ohio Orgy. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thanks.